So what is your role for the town?
Sure. So my name is Marissa, and I'm the waste reduction manager for the refuse district. Sean, I don't know if you explained the refuse district. We're a separate organization. It's a quasi-governmental agency, and so basically I support our two communities that we serve. So the town of Dartmouth and the city of New Bedford, they don't have their own recycling coordinator or recycling staff, and so we support the two communities in that role. I apply for grants, I help with planning new projects, adding new materials to recycle. We want to try to get more and more recycling, and we do a lot of outreach. That's kind of our main thing, is to try to download the information into people's brains as to what they should do. Right?
And you have the overzealous recyclers.
Right.
We're going to go visit a MRF week after next.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
They're going to go see a lot of different, like Needham has their own, they don't pick up trash, so they have a transfer station. So, we got to pulse on it.
So what kind of programs do you do for reducing the waste, basically?
Sure. And so up until now, a big push has been recycling. So trying to get people to recycle and not put those items in the trash, but then also ensuring they put the right items in the recycling. And so we worked a lot on that. We're starting to get a little bit more into encouraging people to actually make less trash. I feel like for so long we've been just talking about what you can recycle and what you can't. But really bigger picture, we need people to make less trash. Yes, so we're starting to get more into that and think of ideas that we can incorporate.
Have you noticed a reduction
in trash?
Yeah, monthly.
Well, good question. So in each community, they both implemented big programs that have resulted in trash reduction. So in Dartmouth, you may have heard of this pay-as-you-throw program where, where you have to pay. So the residents have to go to whatever store sells these special orange bags. I don't know why orange, and then they cost, I think it's like $1 for a small one and $2 for a larger one. And so by implementing these kinds of programs, it just motivates people to reduce their trash. We do know that when the town went to that program, the trash did go to work or to their sister in New Bedford. Right. So the trash doesn't really disappear. It does motivate people to recycle more, which happens. So when the town went to that program, I forget how much recycling increased, but some big percentage. But we heard lots of stories about people bringing their trash to their work or to a cousin who lived in New Bedford or wherever, because they didn't want to pay for the bag fee. That motivated them to actually put their bag of trash in their car. Like, can you imagine? Well, I mean, in Dartmouth, people did that. They just wanted to avoid that fee. So it really motivates people to think more about their trash. Maybe not in good ways, but in some ways. I recall that when they implemented that, it's been years, like maybe 2012 or something, trash was cut in half. So the amount of trash was cut in half, but recycling didn't increase by that corresponding amount because we had this disappearing trash.
So what's your percentage, now that it's leveled off, what percentage are you recycling?
Good question.
Because we're stuck.
I know off the top of my head.
We're stuck below 30%, maybe 25%.
Okay.
But everything's and interestingly, we now collect less recyclables because we try to feed into their heads, just don't throw anything in there, just thinking that you wish it could be recycled. So we try to educate them. We took a ton of photos at a MRF for over a few weeks.
Of the material.
The electricity material, that's just not.
Agreed. We look in carts, but then there are times we see the pile and it's a little shocking, like, oh boy,
that one in there?
That's our stuff.
I mean, how do people not know at this point not to put recyclables in a plastic bag and then put that they should know at this point, in my opinion. But people take the recyclables, put it in a plastic bag, throw it in the recycling, there you go. That's huge.
For instance, in the Philippines, we have this law called the Solid Waste Management Act of the Philippines, which was approved in 2000. But so it's been like 19 years since the law has passed. But until now, we're still educating the people. You should segregate your waste. You should not mix your plastic waste to your biodegradable waste.
It never
It's really
ends.
difficult.
I've been here 20 years. It never ends, to be honest. So I mentioned Dartmouth. They picked the pay-as-you-throw program in New Bedford. In 2014, they went in a different direction. They went to a program with carts. And so residents would receive one cart for trash and one for recycling. And so at that point, the city went to single stream recycling, where the paper and the bottles and cans go together. And so the one thing that New Bedford did a little differently is that there's no option for overflow. And so you have this cart, and if you put a bag like on the ground next to it, then you get a fine. So there's no option for overflow. So we're really trying to encourage people to reduce waste. Obviously, there are situations where people do put a bag of trash in the recycling cart if they have room there. Unfortunately, because there is no option for overflow, like if you have a party or something
Okay, yeah, that's I live in Sharon, where Captain Marissa is actually.
Yes.
So they allow. We got options of 3 different carts. So have you heard this? 3 different size carts for the trash. Small, medium, and large, and then we pay. So you pay quarterly, depending on what size. And then recycling is the largest one, and it gets picked up every week now. Nice. So I chose the small, but there are overflow bags you can buy if you need it. I've only I mean, it's been this way for a year and a half. I don't even think I went through they gave us a few at the beginning, and I didn't even have to go because, and we have a family of 4 or 5 sometimes, and we.
So do you have an alternative technology for plastic waste?
We do not. So we're dealing with residents mainly. So we are trying to encourage people to use less plastic items, right? But we don't have any special technology or anything. We have recycling carts, and people put their items in there, and then they're taken to a MRF.
Right.
Which you will see, and you'll be like, they put added there? Basketballs and cords and metal. Oh, it's just weird what they put in there.
Crazy stuff. So our outreach has lately been focused on just getting people to put the right things in the cars.
So I see you have an oops tag.
Yeah.
So what Norwood does is we get a tag list like you do every day, and we go through our tag list. We have a tag list where either our hauler tells us they didn't pick it up because they saw recyclables and trash from the recyclables or plastic bags or whatever. So we have this orange card that says oops, and it's almost like a postcard, and we mail it off and let them know what they did wrong.
Oh,
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's good. So,
But it's only as good as what our hauler lets us know.
right, for their list to be good.
Right.
So we implemented the IQ kit.
Yeah.
several
Oh, you
times.
did. Cool.
Yes.
That's
Can we have some of
Sure,
those?
sure,
I can bring
definitely.
it back to my city.
Definitely. So the state started this program that they call the IQ Kit in partnership with an organization called the Recycling Partnership. Yes, it's great. So the idea is that we pick the areas in our communities where we know there are the most issues, where we know they need education the most. And so we would visit those particular addresses for 8 weeks in a row, and we would be looking in the recycling carts. And so when we did that, we would be looking for these specific things. So trash or bagged recyclables, plastic bags, yuck being literal food or unrinsed containers, clothing, tanglers, so things that can tangle around the machines, like cords, hoses, things like that.
Hangers.
Exactly, hangers, and then we just had a catch-all for no big items. And so when a cart had met a certain threshold, so for example in Dartmouth, this is a Dartmouth tag, when a cart had 3 plastic bags in it, we would leave that behind. So we would leave this. I didn't bring, but we also have a yellow town thing that we also leave as well that gives a little bit more info. And the cart would not be picked up. So
So you're going to check, or for example, you found 3 bags, like check. So correct this and we will collect next time. Oh, interesting.
And so there are many communities now in Massachusetts who are implementing this. They applied to receive funding through the state to implement this program. So this is a thank you tag we would leave if they've done a good job. Not all communities chose to do this.
I think that's a great idea.
But we like to do it. We want to recognize people if they've done a good job. Yeah. So we would leave those.
Thank you.
And then this was another piece. So this is a postcard that was mailed out. In Dartmouth, it was mailed to everyone. In New Bedford, we didn't have the funds to mail it to everyone, but it's focusing on our top issues. So you can see no plastic bags in the recycling cart and do not bag recyclables. And so we actually turned the extra ones of these into tags. And so when we got to a cart and maybe they had 1 or 2 bags, and so it wasn't quite to the threshold of rejecting, we would leave this and we would write a note on here, no plastic bags, no plastic wrap, please. So we liked it because it focused on bags, because really if it didn't meet that threshold for being rejected, all we had is a thank you tag when we really wanted to get rid of those plastic bags out of the recycling stream, so then we could use this as well.
What language is it?
So this is in Portuguese. In New Bedford, the second language is Spanish.
So we also, we sent out to we have our own light department, so we have the ability to put stuff in there, flyers, and we sent out a flyer about recycling, and we had it translated into a couple of different languages. I'll show you that. I have it in my office. They haven't been in my office. We just picked them up yesterday.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, really?
At the airport.
Oh, so you just came.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you guys are the first. You're the first.
Oh, nice.
It just worked out that way.
Yay. And this was the other postcard. So this was mailed out before we started doing the cart checking. So you can see it's kind of the general. We wanted to give everyone the requirements. These are the things you recycle, and these are the things that don't belong. And so all of the residents received this in Dartmouth as well. And then this was sent out like a few weeks later.
So we attended this session in Nashville about the crisis on recycling, the contamination of recyclables. So yeah, how do you check, or do you really check, for instance, the pizza box? Yeah, from that program, like we saw that people will just put the pizza box in the recyclable cart, but basically the cart is still with the food scraps or something. So yeah, so it will be contaminated, something like that. So China actually won't buy the recyclables because of the contamination, according to Republic.
Yes, and that's why this has been such a focus, and that's why the state was offering the grant to implement this to any community that was willing to do it. Yeah, so it's been a big priority trying to clean up the recycling. Yes, I agree. Yeah, this is a big focus.
Partnership. How is your who calls in?
ABC,
And they've been
the
good.
city suing them.
Okay.
About
There they are, right
processing.
there.
ABC.
It's about processing fees. They want to charge the city processing fees. So this is another thing that we do. So we purchased 20,000 of these decals, and we're placing them on the lids of the recycling carts when we bought in New Bedford. So in New Bedford, when the city bought the carts, all they said on the lid was recycling only. And so it didn't tell people what actually goes in the cart. And so that's why we need this. And this is actually, it came from a statewide initiative called Recycle Smart MA. The state has really been pushing this, trying to clean up the recycling. And they came up with a universal recycling list for the whole state, which has been really helpful. They have a lot of tools on their website. And so this was kind of a design that came from them that we tweaked.
So who puts the sticker on?
So sure, it's city staff, district staff, as well as temps. So we partner always
Anybody
someone with a temp.
Nice.
Well, we have specific staff. The city has inspectors that fine as well, so there are 4 inspectors, so they help do this as well.
Nice.
Yep, and
That
then-
would be great.
Yeah, and then this goes on the front. There's like a front
No
lip of the
plastic
cart,
bags, no
and so that goes in.
Wow.
That is great.
So in my city, we have 5 trash cans. And each trash can has like pictures of the waste that you can put
Sounds
on.
like they're. I know. Great.
But yeah,
great.
but it's still really difficult for the people to really understand. You know, we already put pictures on it, but when you open the trash can, it's still mixed waste. So
Yeah,
it's kind of really.
we've done tons of outreach. I don't know. We have people. We feel like having people on the street is helpful. There's city as inspectors out, and then we've had lots of people out decaling cards, and so they're very public, like showing that this is important. I think is one of our important things that we do. We do outreach everywhere we can. Like we go to supermarkets and do outreach. We do a lot of social media. We're doing a training in a few weeks for custodians at the schools because they need to know how to recycle, the custodians at the schools. So we try to reach as many people as we can in as many ways as possible. We've actually, we really enjoy, we do these presentations to adult ed and English as a second language classes.
Oh,
Those
that's
are
a great
they're
idea.
great because they're so interested and engaged. We usually stay there for a really long time. So we just try to reach people in as many ways as we can, and we feel like it's working. We're hearing from the inspectors that the contamination and the recycling has gone down.
Oh, that's
What
nice.
percentage are you?
We haven't done any audits.
We get emails every once in a while that they've downgraded the load to like 40%. I'm like, good luck. No. 40%.
Yeah, and that.
Oh, there's my boss. Would you excuse
No,
me?
go ahead. Yeah, so some communities in Massachusetts have contracts with their haulers that require them to do audits of their load, so that way they would know the percentage of contamination, and they're actually charging the community based on how much contamination is in there. And so again, it's a whole big push to reduce contamination. We don't have that situation, but others do.
Wow.
In both New Bedford and Dartmouth, the 2 flyers are a little different. So you can see it's gone through an incredible evolution where we're trying to make it the best flyer it can be. It used to be that there was nothing here and it'd be more white, and we were like, well, maybe people won't even know it's about recycling. So we added this, trying to attract attention. And then we have this very clear here.
Yes.
And then, so this is a graphic we're trying to use more and more. We're trying to make it, again, easy.
Yeah.
This stuff goes in here. Right.
This stuff doesn't. This stuff doesn't.
Right. Well, so
Nope, you can cut that off.
yeah. So we used to have that. We used to have that, but they're saying now that if a pizza box has grease on it, it's okay.
Oh,
That's what
are
the
they?
Recyclopedia says on the Recycle
Doesn't it
Smart
make sense
website.
that it would, because it gets ground down and it's only
does.
going to help it make it. Although
Contamination.
I cut off the top.
And some people, I'm sure, still do
Oh
that.
my
We used to
God.
tell
We
people
fight
that all
that.
the time.
Oh my God! I get people. Do I keep the
definitely.
cap off or not?
Yes.
I'm like, if you go to the MRF, what you're going to see is all this stuff with those little pieces of plastic and glass anyway, so it all gets mushed. So leave it. Do whatever what you want. That's what I think.
I
As long as
actually-
it's clean, I'm okay with it.
I saw a video on YouTube. I think it's from Japan. They segregate their waste into 34 different types of waste.
I saw a community
Yeah.
that does that. I think maybe that's what it is, and they do it successfully. from what I
Yes, a zero
hear.
waste. Like they separate, because I just remembered, because you told about the lid. So they separate the lid and they separate the label of the mineral bottle.
Okay,
We
that's
couldn't
a
get our
lot. We
people
could
to
do
do
That's I want to visit that place.
I saw a video on a, I forget what the website is, but it's in Brooklyn. They have a MRF there that's state of the art, and they showed a video. Oh, is it beautiful?
I think I've heard that.
Yeah, it's like the way they separate things. They have state of the art ways of collecting and separating, so they get a better Yeah, it's really awesome.
That is awesome. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard they're talking about now adding robots to these the MRFs.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited to go there.
Yeah, this one's dirty and it doesn't have a robot, but maybe in the future.
okay.
Where are you going? We're going to Avon.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's okay.
I've been there. It's interesting. But every time we go, because we would go because we would look at a load of our
Yes.
stuff and we
Yes.
would watch it get
Yeah.
scooped up, and then we would watch them, and that's good recycle. I'm like, what's the matter with that? Well, I go over what can be recycled and what can't. But they're inevitably when they're switching, cleaning things up and switching. They run 2 shifts, I think. They run all the time. So, but now we'll go when it's running, and then not cleaning up. So it'll be interesting. Some hard hats and dirt.
Yeah, they are very interesting. We've often said we wish we could take the residents to these facilities so they could see what happens and what the problems are. Like when they put dirty diapers in or they put these plastic bags in, like what are the problems that it causes? Yeah, because they don't get to see this. We always say that in our office. Like we get to see all these things, but the residents don't get to.
So we'll do some videos, I think, when we're there. Yeah.
Good. And cards. So bottles and cans go in the gray lid, and then paper and cardboard go in the black lid
that's
card.
exciting.
Yeah, so their program's a little different. that
And
way.
they get picked up by their town, is that
Yes,
it?
they're picked up by their town and they go to Rockwood, Republican.
For recycle for them. Wow.
Yeah, so those are our kind of 2 programs. And like I said, we work to get this kind of information out.